The warehouse was silent except for the echo of Marcus's footsteps as he walked through what used to be his thriving business. Boxes that once held promise now sat empty, gathering dust like tombstones of dreams deferred. The eviction notice crumpled in his pocket felt heavier than the world on his shoulders, heavier than the $2.3 million in debt he carried, heavier than the weight of 47 employees he'd had to let go just 3 months prior. At 35, Marcus Rivera had lost everything. His tech startup, Vision Tech Solutions, had collapsed in spectacular fashion after a series of devastating blows: a major client lawsuit, a key investor pullout, a product recall that cost him everything, and a business partner who disappeared with what remained of their operating funds. The local business journal had run a front-page story titled "The Fall of a Rising Star," complete with a photo of him leaving the courthouse after filing for bankruptcy. The whispers followed him everywhere like shadows he couldn't escape. At the grocery store, I heard he failed spectacularly, lost millions. At his daughter's school pickup, what a waste of potential. He had everything going for him. At family gatherings, maybe he wasn't cut out for this after all. Should have stuck with his corporate job. His wife Sarah had left 6 months ago, taking their 8-year-old daughter Emma with her. "I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore, Marcus," she had said, tears streaming down her face. "Emma needs stability. And you need to figure out who you are without this business consuming you." The foreclosure notice on his house arrived the same day as the warehouse eviction. His car had been repossessed. His credit was destroyed. His reputation was in ruins. At rock bottom, Marcus had discovered that rock bottom had a basement, and that basement had sublevels he never knew existed. But as Marcus stood in that empty warehouse, surrounded by the ghosts of his former success, something deep within his core began to stir. Not hope. Hope felt too fragile, too naive for someone who had been beaten down this brutally. This was different. This was raw, primal defiance. This was the sound of a soul refusing to surrender. "The fire awakens, you know what?" Marcus said aloud to the empty space, his voice barely a whisper that grew into a roar. "I'm done. I'm done letting this moment define me. I'm done letting other people's opinions become my reality. I'm done being a victim of my circumstances." He pulled out the eviction notice, smoothed it flat against a dusty table, and with a broken pen he found on the floor, wrote on the back, "This is not my ending. This is not even my middle. This is my beginning, and I'm going to make it count." That night, Marcus slept on his sister's couch for the first time in 20 years, staring at the ceiling until 4 a.m., his mind racing with possibilities. When the world slept, he was awake, planning. When others hit snooze, he was already dressed and out the door. By 5 a.m., he was at the 24-hour library, commandeering a corner table that would become his makeshift office for the next 18 months. His laptop, battered and held together with electrical tape, became his weapon of choice. His smartphone, with a cracked screen that cut his finger when he swiped, became his lifeline to the world. The first week, he studied failure, not success stories. Everyone reads those. He studied spectacular failures. He read about James Dyson's 5,126 failed prototypes before creating the revolutionary vacuum. He learned about Walt Disney being fired for lacking imagination and having no good ideas. He discovered that Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty, faced abuse, and was told she was unfit for television news. Marcus realized something profound. Every person who had ever achieved greatness had first mastered the art of getting back up. They had learned to transform their scars into stars, their tests into testimonies, their pain into power. But knowledge without action is just sophisticated procrastination. Marcus began building. Every rejection letter became fuel for his fire. Every no became a reason to prove them wrong. Every sleepless night became an investment in tomorrow's victory. Every person who had written him off became motivation to write his own comeback story. He lived on $3 a day, $1 for breakfast, instant oatmeal, $1 for lunch, peanut butter sandwich, $1 for dinner, ramen noodles. He walked everywhere because he couldn't afford gas. He wore the same 3 shirts in rotation because he had sold everything else. He had $127 to his name and a dream that felt impossible to everyone except him. The crucible of character 9 months passed like a blur of caffeine, code, and crushing determination. Marcus lived in a world that existed between 4 a.m. and midnight, where most people saw exhaustion but he saw opportunity. His new app idea was audacious, a platform that connected struggling entrepreneurs with mentors who had failed spectacularly and risen again. He called it the Phoenix Network. The concept came to him during one of his darkest moments, sitting in a McDonald's at 2 a.m. because it was the only place with free Wi-Fi and warmth. He watched the night shift workers, single mothers working 2 jobs, college students grinding through school, immigrants chasing the American dream one minimum wage hour at a time. Every person had been knocked down by life, but they were all still fighting. That's when it hit him. The most valuable advice doesn't come from people who have never failed, it comes from people who have failed magnificently and live to tell about it. The first version of the app was built with $127, sheer determination, and code held together by prayers and energy drinks. Marcus taught himself advanced programming by watching YouTube videos at 3 a.m. He designed the interface using free software and templates that looked like they belonged in 2005. He beta tested it with other people society had written off. Maria, a single mother of 3 who was starting a catering business from her apartment kitchen. James, a veteran who was translating his military logistics experience into a delivery service startup. Sarah, not his ex-wife, a college dropout with a revolutionary idea for sustainable packaging and zero startup capital. These weren't just beta testers, they became his first family, his proof of concept. His reminder that resilience runs deeper than circumstances. The platform grew organically, one desperate entrepreneur at a time. Marcus didn't have money for marketing, so he became a missionary for hope. He showed up at every startup meetup, every business networking event, every community college entrepreneurship class. He told his story, all of it: the spectacular failure, the public humiliation, the financial ruin, the family dissolution, and most importantly, the choice to rise again. People connected not with his success, but with his scars. They saw in him what they hoped to become, proof that rock bottom could be a foundation, not a grave. By month 12, the Phoenix network had 1,000 users. By month 18, it had 10,000. Each user represented someone who refused to let their current chapter become their final story. The platform wasn't just connecting mentors and ments, it was creating a movement of people who understood that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. Marcus learned that the most powerful network in the world isn't made of people who have never fallen, it's made of people who have fallen and chosen to rise together. The breakthrough, the turning point, came on a Tuesday that started like any other. Marcus was in the library, subsisting on his third cup of free coffee and his daily peanut butter sandwich, when his phone buzzed with a notification that changed everything. TechCrunch had written an article about the Phoenix network titled "The App Built from Rock Bottom That's Lifting Thousands." The journalist, Rebecca Chen, had discovered the platform through her own research into entrepreneurial resilience. She had spent weeks interviewing users: Maria, whose catering business had gone from her kitchen to 3 food trucks; James, whose delivery service was now partnering with major retailers; entrepreneurs who had gone from food stamps to 6-figure revenues, all connected through Marcus's platform. What Rivera has created, Chen wrote, isn't just an app, it's a movement. It's proof that our greatest failures can become our greatest teachers, and our deepest wounds can become our strongest sources of strength. Within 48 hours, everything exploded. The article went viral. Users flooded the platform, not just entrepreneurs, but investors, corporate executives, celebrities who had faced public failures. The Phoenix network grew from 10,000 users to 50,000 in a single week. Venture capitalists who had once rejected Marcus's original startup began reaching out. The same investors who had refused to return his calls when Vision Tech was collapsing suddenly wanted meetings. The irony wasn't lost on him. His greatest success was being built on the foundation of his greatest failure. But Marcus had learned something crucial in those 18 months of grinding. Success isn't about getting everyone to believe in you. It's about believing in yourself when no one else will. It's about showing up every day, especially when you don't feel like it. It's about understanding that your comeback is always stronger than your setback. The first major investment offer came from Harrison Ventures, $2.5 million for 25% equity. Marcus stared at the term sheet, remembering when he would have killed for this kind of validation. Now, he had the luxury of choice, the power of patience, and the wisdom that comes from having lost everything and built it back with his bare hands. But the real breakthrough wasn't financial, it was personal. On a Wednesday evening, as Marcus was closing the library and preparing for another night on his sister's couch, his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in over a year: Sarah, his ex-wife. Marcus? Her voice was tentative. Careful. I saw the article. I wanted to congratulate you. Emma saw it too. She's been asking about you. For the first time in 2 years. Marcus cried, not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that redemption was possible, that broken things could be made whole, that the man who had lost everything could find not just his way back, but his way forward to something better than he had ever imagined. Rising from ashes 2.5 years later, Marcus stood on the stage of TechCrunch Disrupt, the same conference where he had once been laughed off the stage during Vision Tech's death throes. The irony was delicious. The vindication complete. The Phoenix Network now boasted 500,000 users across 47 countries. Behind him, a massive screen displayed real-time testimonials from entrepreneurs who had found their second, third, and fourth chances through his platform. But the statistics, impressive as they were, weren't what mattered most to Marcus. What mattered was the 8-year-old girl sitting in the front row, holding a sign that read, "That's my dad." Emma had grown 2 inches and lost 3 teeth since he'd last seen her regularly, but her smile was exactly as he remembered. Sarah sat beside her, no longer wearing her wedding ring, but no longer carrying the weight of resentment either. They weren't getting back together, too much had changed. Too much trust needed rebuilding, but they were co-parenting again, and Marcus was slowly earning his way back into his daughter's daily life. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice steady and strong, carrying the authority that comes not from arrogance but from having walked through fire and emerged refined rather than burned. "I want to tell you about the most beautiful sound in the world. It's not applause, though I appreciate yours. It's not the ding of a cash register, though revenue is nice. It's not even the notification sound of a successful app launch." He paused, looking out at an audience of 3,000 entrepreneurs, investors, and dreamers, many of whom had their own scars, their own stories of almost giving up. "The most beautiful sound in the world is the sound of someone getting back up after they've been knocked down. It's the sound of breath-filling lungs that thought they'd never breathe freely again. It's the sound of a phone call being made after the 100th rejection. It's the sound of a laptop closing at 2 a.m. after another 18-hour day of building something from nothing." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. 3 years ago, I was that sound. I was in an empty warehouse with an eviction notice and $127 to my name, choosing between giving up and getting up. Today, through the Phoenix Network, thousands of people are making that sound every single day in coffee shops, spare bedrooms, basements, and garages around the world. He clicked to the next slide, showing a map of the world dotted with red phoenix symbols, each representing a success story born from failure. Tomorrow, we're going to teach the world that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the foundation of it. We're going to prove that your breakdown can become your breakthrough, that your test can become your testimony, and that your pain can become your purpose. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds, but Marcus wasn't counting the applause. He was watching Emma clap with pure joy, watching Sarah smile with something that looked like pride, and feeling the weight of 500,000 people who had chosen to rise when life knocked them down. The Phoenix philosophy. In the months following his TechCrunch triumph, Marcus documented what he had learned in the trenches of transformation. He called it the Phoenix philosophy, not because he thought he was wise, but because he had become fluent in the language of rising from ashes. Marcus had learned what the ancient wisdom already knew, but what modern success culture had forgotten: every setback is a setup for something greater, but only if you refuse to let it be a knockout. Every failure is data, but only if you're willing to study the crash instead of just surviving it. Every rejection is redirection, but only if you keep moving instead of staying stuck in resentment. Every closed door is a lesson in finding windows, but only if you don't spend all day staring at the door. He understood now that champions aren't made in the comfort of victory, they're forged in the fire of adversity. That resilience isn't about avoiding the storm, it's about learning to dance in the rain while building an ark. That courage isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and showing up anyway, day after day, decision after decision. The Phoenix Network grew exponentially because it was built on a simple but revolutionary truth: everyone has fallen, but not everyone chooses to rise. Those who do become part of an unstoppable force that transforms not just their own lives, but the lives of everyone they touch. Marcus began speaking at conferences, universities, and corporate events, sharing the Phoenix philosophy with anyone who would listen. But his favorite audience was always the same: people who felt like they were standing in their own empty warehouse, holding their own eviction notice, wondering if they had the strength to choose their next chapter instead of letting their current chapter choose them. The Phoenix, he would tell them, doesn't rise despite the fire, it rises because of the fire. The flames don't destroy it, they reveal its true nature. Every struggle you face isn't an obstacle to your success, it's the raw material of your comeback story. Every time you get knocked down and choose to get back up, you don't just return to where you were, you rise to where you're meant to be. The Phoenix Network wasn't just changing individual lives anymore, it was changing the conversation around failure. Business schools began teaching case studies about the Phoenix method. Corporate executives were hiring chief resilience officers. The stigma of failure was being replaced by the recognition that failure is often the tuition fee for success. But for Marcus, the real victory wasn't measured in users or revenue or speaking fees. It was measured in moments: Emma running to hug him after his school career day presentation, Sarah texting him a photo of an entrepreneur she'd met who credited the Phoenix network with saving her startup, Maria calling to tell him she was opening her 10th restaurant location. Success, Marcus had learned, isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a decision you make every day to keep showing up, keep building, keep rising, no matter how many times you fall. Your Phoenix moment 5 years after that dark night in the empty warehouse. Marcus Rivera stands as living proof that your current situation is not your final destination. The Phoenix network has grown into a global movement with over 2 million users, but more importantly, it has facilitated over 100,000 successful business launches, created more than 250,000 jobs, and generated over $1.2 billion in economic impact from people who refused to stay down. Marcus remarried, not Sarah, but Jennifer, a fellow entrepreneur he met through the platform who had built a sustainable fashion company from the ashes of her own retail failure. Emma, now 13, splits her time between both parents and considers herself lucky to have 2 homes full of people who never give up. Sarah successfully launched her own consulting firm and credits her experience supporting Marcus through his darkest period as the foundation of her expertise in crisis management. The original warehouse where Marcus's first company died? He bought it back and turned it into the Phoenix Center, a co-working space specifically for entrepreneurs building their second, third, or fourth ventures. The wall where he once wrote, "This is not my ending," is now preserved behind glass, with a plaque that reads, "Every ending is a beginning in disguise." But the real measure of Marcus's success isn't found in the numbers or the accolades. It's found in the daily emails he receives from around the world. Marcus, I was ready to give up on my restaurant after it failed in the first year. Through your platform, I connected with a mentor who had failed with 3 restaurants before building a chain of 20. I'm writing this from my second location, which just had its best month ever. Thank you for showing me that failure is just the first draft of success. I lost my corporate job at 55 and thought my career was over. The Phoenix network connected me with others who had reinvented themselves after 50. I just landed my dream role as a startup advisor, and I've never been happier. Age is just a number, but wisdom is invaluable. My tech startup burned through $500,000 in investor money and crashed spectacularly. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I found my Phoenix mentor through your platform, someone who had lost $2 million before building a $15 million company. I'm writing this from my new office. We just closed our Series A. The Phoenix rises again. As Marcus often tells new users joining the Phoenix network during his weekly live video sessions, right now, you might be in your warehouse moment, standing in the ruins of what was, wondering if what could be is even possible. You might be surrounded by the echoes of other people's doubts, carrying the weight of your own disappointments, feeling like the world has written you off before you've written your final chapter. Let me tell you something that took me 35 years to learn and 2 years of eating ramen noodles to truly understand. That moment when you feel like you can't take another step, when you feel like you can't face another rejection, when you feel like you can't survive another failure, that's not your breaking point, that's your breakthrough point. The Phoenix doesn't rise despite the fire, it rises because of the fire. Your struggles aren't obstacles to your success, they're the raw materials of your comeback story. Every scar is a star waiting to shine. Every wound is a window waiting to open. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. You think you're broken, but you're becoming. You think you're finished, but you're just getting started. You think you're too old, too young, too late, too early, too damaged, too inexperienced. Let me tell you what you really are. You're exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. The world is full of people who quit 5 minutes before their miracle. Don't be one of them. The world is full of people who let their temporary circumstances become their permanent identity. Don't be one of them. The world is full of people who let other people's opinions become their reality. Don't be one of them. Your Phoenix moment is now. Not when you feel ready, you'll never feel ready. Not when you have all the answers, you'll figure them out as you go. Not when the fear goes away. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the presence of fear. Your Phoenix moment is now. Rise. The fire that burns within you is stronger than the fire that burns around you. Your comeback starts with your choice to come back. Your success starts with your refusal to surrender. Your Phoenix rises the moment you decide that staying down is not an option. Every champion was once a beginner. Every expert was once a disaster. Every Phoenix was once ashes. The only difference between those who rise and those who don't is the decision to try one more time. Make that decision today. Make it every day. And watch as your life transforms from a story of survival into a saga of triumph. The phoenix within you is waiting. Light the fire. Rise from the ashes. Show the world what you're made of.